Welcome to the Find Your Voice, Change Your Life podcast with psychologist Dr. Doreen Downing. Listen in as Doreen interviews people who felt they didn't have a voice or who suffered extreme speaking anxiety. You'll hear stories about how they struggled to speak up, what they did to find their authentic voice, and the confidence they now feel to speak up and make an impact. If you want to get started right away to find your voice, download Doreen's free 7-step guide to fearless speaking at doreen7steps.com. And now, here is Doreen.
Hi, this is Dr. Doreen Downing. Welcome to the Find Your Voice, Change Your Life podcast. I am always so thrilled because usually what happens on my podcast is I get to meet somebody for the first time. And so my listeners get to listen to this interaction, this exchange, this getting to know this new person in my life and what her story is about not having had a voice, her journey to find it, and what she offers now. And I'm really excited about sharing with you not only the journey, but what she offers. And there's a couple books or at least one book that she's written, maybe two, and she's got a whole series. So we got
It's coming.
lots to explore in our short time together today. But first, let me just say hi, Shelly.
Hey, Dr. Downing, how are you?
Oh, I am thrilled to be sitting down. It feels like I need a cup of coffee.
Coffee. We do great
Yeah,
with
we're
that.
having
Coffee
a
and
coffee date.
conversation. We'll
Yeah,
have to do that.
or like when before I got married, I was in the find your boyfriend or find your mate,
Yeah,
find your
yeah,
soulmate, and you
yeah.
go and meet him, sit down. So it
That's
kind of
it.
feels
Yeah,
like,
yeah.
all
Little dating,
right,
little fast dating. But
yes,
yes, I used to do trainings and I'd call them coffee and conversation if I did them real early in the morning. And I'd say, bring your coffee and y'all just come get on Zoom and we'll
yeah.
do our training. So yeah,
Well,
but
we're
yes, it's
in
great to
the
be here with you.
afternoon. Yeah,
Yes,
we're in the
now
afternoon. So it's tea and talk.
cocktails. Wait,
Oh,
cocktails and
okay.
conversation.
That's early cocktails, let me tell you. So
Well, yeah,
two.
I'm nearly 5 o'clock.
Okay. All right. Yeah, okay. I'm still in my tea. Well,
Yeah,
already we're off and running and people are going, wow, look at them. Look at them
yeah,
dance
yeah, yeah.
together.
We're already
So,
fast friends, so we're already on our way to the bar. So I guess we better slow down.
okay, let me read your
Okay, there you go.
bio that you sent.
Okay, go ahead.
Ah, big breath. Shelly Grimm is the founder of the Perpetual Caregiver Collective, a national movement dedicated to supporting caregivers and those living with chronic illness through compassion, financial clarity, and renewal. A former insurance executive with 27 years of experience in financial consulting, Shelley blends her professional expertise with deeply personal experience. Ooh. Her mother was the first woman in the United States diagnosed with Crohn's disease in 1956, an event that shaped Shelley's lifelong empathy for those facing chronic illness and the families who care for them. This is what I said earlier about her being an author of her debut memoir, Some Asses Just Need Wiping.
It's my
And the
quirky sense of humor.
Uh, yeah, that's already coming through. And the upcoming sequel, Some Loves Just Need Leaving, part of her Some Just Need book series. And Shelley's been featured on Fox Business, Bloomberg, and Tom Hagna's Who Wants to Be a Millionaire, and was named by MSN as one of the top 10 most inspirational women to follow in 2025. Oh, I'm so glad I got you before the end of the year because we're still in 2025 just for
We
about
are. Yeah.
your work or her work through the Perpetual Caregiver Collective bridges the gap between practical financial preparedness and emotional well-being, ensuring no caregiver or care recipient ever feels unseen or unsupported. Oh, that was really wonderful to slow down and read that and to
It's a lot. It's a mouthful.
but it's a lifeful.
It's a lot of life. We live a
Yeah,
lot of life.
yeah.
People forget
Ooh.
it gets in the way.
Yeah. Well, we all start somewhere, and that's where I usually go back to in the podcast is early
Yeah,
life, just so give us a snapshot.
sure.
And I think I'm a psychologist, so I
Yeah,
always get curious about some ways in which what you're doing now relates to some of what happened then. Uh,
sure.
for my experience, my mother and father were divorcing and nobody was talking about it, but I knew. It feels like I developed early on a sensitivity to deep listening, which I bring to my work as a psychologist.
Exactly.
So that kind of what was difficult then often becomes what's your superpower now.
Exactly. Yep. Yeah. I think I, I don't necessarily know that it's a superpower. But I will say that I've been conditioned, and the early introduction to my mother being ill and my having to assume a lot of responsibility early on. She and my dad divorced when I was 3, and although I had an older sister,
Uh-huh.
she lived with my grandmother. My mother and my father were the second marriage for both of them. My dad also had a son from a first marriage that he was also raising, and both of them were respectively 8 and 9 years older than I was. So I was the only child between them, and I think really for me, and it wasn't just me. I mean, I even put that in my book, is that nobody knew what to do, including the doctors. I mean, she was the first. So in 1956, I mean, who had chronic illnesses back then? Nobody. If
Uh-huh.
you think about it, you either got better or you died.
Yeah, yeah, that's true. Our life expectancy it used to be early 1900s or in the 30s. So by the time we got into the 40s and 50s, other than war taking
Let me
our
tell
men
you what it
and
was,
women.
because I know, because I was a life insurance agent.
Uh-huh.
52
Uh-huh.
was your life
Okay.
expectancy in
Oh
1956.
my goodness, I've outlived that for sure. In my 70s
It's
now.
really scary. And when Social
Uh-huh.
Security got started, I don't know if you know this, of course, like financial services, but when Social Security got started, the reason that they only gave it to people till they're 65 is because the normal retirement age was 62. And they thought you were only going to live till 65, so they only had 3 years to pay you. I am not kidding you. Okay, so this is not a joke. I'm not joking about that. I can show you where it's written.
Uh-huh.
But that is why we don't fund it correctly now, because it was never meant
Yeah.
to carry us for as long as it has to now for our life expectancies. But my point to that is, when my mother was first diagnosed and they didn't have any idea what she had, and the first thing they did was do a resection of her small intestine, and then patched her up and sent her off to Temple, Texas, where they had Scott and White Hospital, and she was 18. And they thought at first, when they opened her up, she was having a female problem. They had no medicine for her to take for 14 years,
Mm.
and somehow she survived, right? She was extremely healthy. She was very athletic. So I think her total condition was why she, did so well. And she was just a fighter naturally. Um, but they didn't expect her to live.
Mhm.
So, and she did. So now what? Um, so I think that's really more of, while she was finding her voice, I was watching her. She was a dynamic individual, not a very good mother, because when you're fighting a disease all by yourself and nobody's listening to you and they don't validate, can you imagine they don't validate her stuff now? Can you imagine validating her stuff in 56? I mean,
Well,
you go to
Shelley,
a doctor now and
what is Crohn's disease? I mean, like, how did that show up in your family? How did it show up day to day
well,
for?
well, normally Crohn's, there was only 4 men in the US that had it before her.
Uh-huh.
4. So she was the 5th person. Only Jewish people had it. We're
Uh-huh.
not Jewish. or actually Middle Eastern, I should say Middle Eastern. It had only been clustered in Jewish families. So it's not hereditary, it's genetic. They didn't know any of this then. So what they even called it, they didn't call it Crohn's because Dr. Crohn is where it got named from.
Uh-huh.
They called it ileitis. And the part that was affected in my mother's stomach was called the terminal ileum. So that's what it was called when she was diagnosed. So your symptoms, are chronic diarrhea, excessive gas, you can't eat anything, you're malnutritioned, you're dehydrated. Your small intestine is what digests it absorbs all of the nutrients in your food and is the most important place for you to absorb liquid. Your large intestine really is just filtering out the last of the things to go to your kidneys, all of the last of the pollutants in your body. It's screening for all the things, the waste we got to get out of our kidneys and our bladder and all of those things.
Uh-huh.
So I mean, my mother, when I was still taking care of her until she passed at 64, but she would eat about 5,000 calories a day, and that wasn't enough. I mean, they fed
Uh-huh.
her with a total patient nutrition IV for the last 4 years of her life, and they were giving her 10,000 calories a day, and that was just barely keeping her alive.
But when you were young is when she had the disease.
Oh, she had the disease her whole life. You don't ever get
But
rid
I
of that.
meant for you to have been observing and being somebody who young, because I'm still
Oh,
thinking
yeah, yeah.
about you
We're
as
still on that part. Yes. Yes. Yes, sleeping in the hospitals and sleeping in the lobbies of a hospital. She didn't have any health insurance, so they didn't
uh-huh,
keep you. They'd either give her something for pain and send her home or admit her and do surgery. And you could only do so many. So by the time I came around, she had had two resections. And then about 4 years after in 1969, so about 5 years, when I was about 5 or 6, they finally, no, 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 when I was 9, they finally came out with prednisone.
uh-huh.
And that was the first thing that they were able to give them. But of course, that created its own problems because they would have to give her such high doses of it that finally she had a complete psychotic break.
Well, I'm thinking about you, this little girl growing up in this environment.
Oh yeah,
where-
no, I was just bumping along.
Wow, you had to be independent. You had to figure out how to make things work, I guess, in your own life.
Well,
You
I
had to go to
did laundry
school.
and yeah, I
Yeah,
did
yeah.
all that.
Wow, you just put on
A little happy face. I was a very happy child.
uh,
My dad was physically around. Um, and until he married my stepmonster, it was pretty good with
oh, I'm glad
him.
you said that. I've never called my stepmother stepmonster before. That's a great juxtaposition. Thanps. I got it.
It's mentioned 137 times in my book.
Uh-huh.
I don't know that I ever call her by her name, but up until the time he married her, we were doing all right. And
Uh-huh.
then after he married her, there was just no. I mean, my mother spent most of that time where she was doing the, Dr. Maxwell Maltz confidence building kit and I'm okay, you're okay, and games people play. And I mean, I
Oh,
should have
what
had a
a
psychology degree
spirit.
before that. Yeah,
What
well,
a
that was my mom.
spirit.
She
Yeah.
wanted to make sure that she knew she didn't know how long she was going to be around,
Uh-huh.
and she knew what I was up against, not just with life, but with no matter where I went, there was crazy.
Uh-huh.
So she was just like, you know what? You're going to have to fight these people your whole life. I can't fight them for you if I'm gone. So let's
Uh-huh.
just get you armored up. And that's kind of what
Okay,
she did.
so that's the early part of your journey, and luckily it feels like there was attention to building some inner muscle for you to.
Yeah, only for her to break him down. She was pretty much a narcissist, but
Oh
it is
wow.
it
This
is what it
story,
is.
I know I'm going to be moving on, but I'm sure
Yeah, yeah,
curious
yeah,
about,
yeah,
I
yeah,
guess, where I'm going now before we move into the actual kind of how you started to really heal yourself, which is a lot of what I'm feeling you
yeah.
had to do, not only because of your situation, but um, This, I just need to take all this in. This is huge. Whew, this incapacitated by disease human who's your mother, and then you being this little girl because you're alone. Your dad's not there, and you've got this older sister somewhere, and this brother.
Well, she's at my grandmother's. She
Right,
can't handle it. She doesn't.
right.
She doesn't. She and no one acknowledges that my mother is sick. The only thing that they think is that she's lazy. Well,
Well, it
I'll
also
tell you, if
sounds
you're on
like
the
she,
potty 25 times a day
uh-huh.
and in constant pain,
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure that's not lazy.
No, 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 no.
And the worst
Yeah.
thing with Crohn's disease is you're tired. The
Uh-huh.
tiredness is
Well, that's the
unbelievable.
lazy, probably. Yeah,
Yes.
that's
So,
probably lazy.
um,
But to
that's
come back
probably
to you,
okay. Go ahead.
I'm just getting a good sense of you being somebody who's already figured out how to do the bicycle and ride her bike straight forward.
She walked a lot.
Oh, I'm talking
We
about you
I
as
know
the little girl.
she Shelly, third person,
Yeah.
walked a lot.
Uh-huh.
We didn't have any money. My dad was stinking rich. In fact, I just moved back to my hometown in 2021, but I live I live 4 blocks away from where he did it. 26 same block, 2600 block.
Uh-huh.
But my mom and I lived in hood. So
Yeah.
we didn't.
Yeah. Across the tracks. Well, what
Yeah.
I meant by you getting on a bicycle was definitely metaphorical. I just feel like you put the wheels on
Oh, no,
and you
I
just
know.
kept
I'm just saying we
rolling.
couldn't even afford a bike, girl. I got my first one. I got my first 10 speed. My son lives right across the street from the place I got my first 10 speed. And when I bought the little condo there right for him, I said, "Man, I got Hills Sporting Goods is where I bought my first green. That's all they had, a green
Uh-huh.
10 speed Schwinn."
Oh, yeah.
So, and I was so
Yeah.
happy. It was 13 years old. I mean, my mom saved up for that. She had it in layaway over there. I mean, it was just crazy.
Oh,
But
layaway. Remember those
yeah,
times?
I wish they still had it. I love
Yes.
layaway. I don't have anywhere to put it now.
Uh-huh.
But
Well, okay. So, 13 years old, you got your bicycle.
finally got a
Your
bike. Yep.
mom is, and we do know that you already said that you served as a caregiver through her life,
Yeah.
but you also must have been, because we're talking also about voice. Did you have a voice? And it seems like I get a sense of you did and you didn't at the same time.
That's very real. Um, I was legally emancipated when I was 13, and most people, when I say that to them, they're like, "Oh my God, things got so bad. You had to, kind of like divorce your parents." And I'm like, "No, that's what you think." No, when my mom, I mean, it's very, very cold here, and in the wintertime, the wind is unbelievable. They call Chicago the Windy City, but this city is actually where the wind blows hardest all the time, Amarillo. So my my junior high was not that far, but it was too far for me to walk in the winter. So my dad would pick me up if my mom didn't feel well and take me to school. Well, he was never on time because he had been in the military. And once you get out of the military, you're like, I'm not getting up at whatever time you tell me to before 9 o'clock. So he was a late riser. So he would always make me late for school.
Uh-huh.
And so finally they called him and said, "Listen, is there any way that you could come sign her in? Because she's got way too many unexcused tardies." And he said, well, I mean, whatever. He owned his own company. He just didn't want to do it. And so he said, he told me when I came up to his office a day or two later, he said, call Wayne, which was his best friend, attorney. And he said, find out from him what we have to do to be able to let you sign yourself in and not be tardy. Yeah. So I called him and I was 13 and I called Wayne and I said, what do I have to do? And he said, well, the only thing we can do is get you emancipated. And I said, well, what's that? He said, well, that's just me getting a piece of paper signed by the judge that says you're allowed to sign things on your own behalf. You're of legal age to do that. I
Uh-huh.
was like, all right. I said, well, what do we need to do? He said, I need to draft a paper and your dad needs to sign it. I said, does my mom? And he said, no. And I said, just my dad? He said, yeah. And I said, okay, well, I'll tell him. So when he came back in, I told him that. And he said, call Wayne back, tell him get it done. So within probably 2 weeks, I was legally emancipated. Well, I was already really driving, But then you could get your hardship learner's permit. So they took me to get my learner's permit. And then within a year at 14, I had my driver's license.
Wow.
And so it was not for me to divorce my parents. It was, hey, here's more responsibility. So I was driving myself to school. I was, like they gave me a checkbook, put the child support check in there. I was paying the household bills. Um, by the time I was 15 and 8 months, because my mother had decided she was going to get out of the mental hospital and then she was going to finally be a mother because she didn't remember anything.
Uh-huh.
I mean, that was almost like, since you're a psychologist, complete break from reality. She was there
Yeah.
7 weeks.
Uh-huh.
I mean, like, she thought no one could see her if she didn't have her clothes on.
Oh, whoops.
And she
Uh,
smoked, but you couldn't smoke in the facility. But she thought if she didn't have any clothes on and they couldn't see her,
yeah.
that she could smoke.
Well, in some ways that makes sense, logical sense, but it's not reality, of
It's
course.
not.
So she
When you
was, yeah,
when you had a complete break from reality, everything makes sense. So
right.
she took
Uh-huh.
all her clothes off. She was sitting on her bed smoking a cigarette, and her roommate came and saw her
Mhm.
and was like, "You can't smoke in here." And she goes, "What? You can see me."
You could see me.
So she got up underneath the bed. Uh, People had to come in there and get her out from underneath the bed. She was so mad because they could see her. You're not supposed to be able to see me. Anyway, the funny thing is that my mother and I were definitely very, very close. And even though we had this torrid relationship, it was really more like two best friends fighting all the time because I was raising her.
Yeah.
I mean, that's really
Yeah.
what it was.
Uh-huh.
So she decided when she came back that she was going to, be my mother. And I'm like, hold on,
Mm.
time out. Now I have to tell you everywhere I'm going. I have to be home at a certain time. If
Uh-huh.
I'm not, I have to call you. Are you joking? No. And so she kept that crap up. And so finally I called my dad and I was like, look, this woman's driving me crazy. I'm moving out. Okay, where are you going? I'm just going to get an apartment. Okay, well, tell me where you're going to move. Try to get one under 200. Right, this is 1979.
Yeah.
Um, try to get one under $200 and I'll pay it. So that's what I did.
And still going to high school
Yeah, went high and working
and
and
working. My
working.
goodness. Yeah.
I
Well,
worked since I was probably 14. So,
yeah, yeah. Grab the reins of life
well,
and
actually, I worked at 9. I was babysitting the kids across the street so I could help with groceries.
hmm
We never had any. We ate at my grandmother's house every night. So, because she couldn't cook. I mean, she couldn't physically stand up long enough to cook anyway. So,
Okay, you certainly got some muscle to handle all of that responsibility.
I learned some muscles. I didn't know they were
And
muscles
you
that I was
had
building.
you already so far, those of us who are listening to you have said that little girl had a voice. And,
Yeah.
calling the lawyer, calling your dad, just really feels like
Wait till you hear the next one.
not backing away from what was right in front of you. You just
Never
opened your eyes
have.
and said, go.
Somebody has to deal with it. I mean, I just never saw the point in running.
Yeah.
I've never seen that point. It's gonna get you, and it's only gonna be worse when it does. So,
Mhm. Well, there's just, what is it? This is about the 170th episode I've done on Find Your Voice, Change Your Life podcast. And there are a lot of stories of people who, put the cover over their head or
yeah.
went into the bedroom and disappeared from life as best they could. But you did the opposite, Shelley. You just
Well,
busted
my dad,
straight
my dad had a
forward.
saying, but my dad, I guess I got a lot. Well, and also remember where I'm from. This is the Panhandle of Texas, where they
Mhm.
had the Dust Bowl, the Depression, the stock market crash, all at the same time.
Uh-huh.
These are a pretty tough peoples.
Okay, sturdy.
It's kind of a suck it up and get back in there kind of group.
Okay, thank you.
You,
Got it.
you really aren't allowed to have a down moment
Uh-huh.
It's really not really allowed. Um, and in my lineage, my well, I am from the Grimm brothers fairy tale lineage. I'm getting all my tree finally finished. But they were pretty tough people. It's funny, I'm writing too now. But my other side of the family, my grandfather, my great great grandfather here, was first generation German and started dry wheat farming here. And people came from all over the United States to learn how to do that because it had never been done in the United States. They were doing it in Germany, and they did tobacco in
Mm.
Germany. But he taught people how to dry wheat farm. When you had a drought, you could do it that way. And so,
Uh-huh.
I mean, it's tough. I mean, my grandmother was one of 10 kids. She was the only one that didn't, she was a nurse. She was the only one that didn't work on the farm. So just the stock in my
Yes.
grandmother was one of 6 and she was a nurse. She was the oldest of 6. So just tough people. And I'm not going to even say that when you read my book, you'll see that wasn't a good place necessarily for little Shelly to be. Wasn't
Say,
always a great place for little Shelly to be.
well, I know you're saying that with a smile and a giggle. Can you just say one more thing about that? That's not a what
It's
kind of
not,
place?
it wasn't, it wasn't always the best place for Shelly to be. My mother was definitely the the soft spot to land, and that's not saying a lot.
Right, right. Well, since this is a podcast about voice and having a voice, I guess so far what I'm seeing is that because of what you just described as the stock, as well as the kind of not the best place for a little girl to be, your voice came from a survival instinct.
Exactly. I was
Okay, I
just
got
trying to
it.
make it.
Yeah.
I didn't know what I was trying to survive from. Um, I didn't know what or where the next stop on the train was. I didn't know what was expected or anticipated. There was no plan. Tomorrow wasn't even discussed. I was just
Well,
running.
to come back to voice, but you were using your voice.
Oh, I was. I was saying, I'm getting out of here. I'm getting out of here. And I did. The day they let me out, I ran as fast as I could.
Hmm.
So, yeah.
Hmm.
And I never came back. I didn't come back to Amarillo for 14 years.
Uh-huh. Well,
So
you've written a book.
that's a lot of voice.
Yeah.
Now, my
Tell
mother
me.
was a writer too. She was a
Uh-huh.
lifetime member of ASCAP. She wrote songs and books and poetry and all that. And so I'm sure I got a little bit of that from her. But yeah, I really enjoyed writing the book, and I can't wait to write the next one because I all of them it's going to be my memoir all the way through. Um, but this one was pretty hard to write. I've been writing this one for 20 years. I couldn't get through those last years 14 through 17 without going into an unbelievably deep depression.
Uh-huh.
So I'd started it 3 or 4 times and over the course of about 20, 25 years. And this time I said, you know what? I've got to get through those last years. And I went ahead and hired a ghostwriter to help me with those last chapters and
Hmm.
get through it. She was
Yeah.
awesome. Um, so I still went through the, she was like, no, 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 you're good.
Well, yeah, yeah. Well, in a sense, what I'm also getting is that when the voice is hard to be expressed, whatever the truth and the pain that is there, that when you have a listener or a witness or somebody who's holding it for you and listening it out of you, your voice
Mhm.
was listened out in those for those
Sessions with her.
years, I
Yeah.
think.
Well, The problem for me is that there is still so much to uncover for me because the trauma never stopped. That's why perpetual. So I went on to marry a man who had been sexually abused from the time he was 3 till he was 14. I had no idea about attachment disorders, or I never had a long-term boyfriend. I was too busy doing laundry and taking
Mm-hmm.
care of a mother who was dying all the time, or myself.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I was married to him for 8 years, terribly abusive relationship, had a neurodivergent son. He's disabled. He's 37 now. I love him to death, but he can't work. I he had, you know, Pediatric Psychiatry Association didn't really let you diagnose them with a lot of the things they will now. Pediatricians will
Yeah.
be able to pinpoint some of that and send them on. But when he got diagnosed at 9, they wouldn't. So he had generalized anxiety disorder, generalized mood disorder, everything was generalized. But what he really had is the chairman at Tulane Psychiatry was like, I would diagnose him with a personality
Yeah.
disorder right now if I could. Um, I had to keep a lot of balls in the air for a long time to get him to where he is right now, and he's way further than anybody ever gave him a shot. Profoundly dyslexic and huge. He's 6'4", 17
Uh-huh.
shoe, 58 coats, 19-inch neck. I mean, he's a little bitty guy. And then I had another kid who was perfectly normal. So he's not now, but he was then. You know, we
Uh-huh.
ruined him. They had to ruin him. You can't put him in a, you take a normal kid, put him in a dysfunctional family, he's going to get ruined. So it's just never, and that's what I try to put in my book about it. Don't put kids in this situation. It's imperative that they not get caught up in that responsibility cycle. They can't distinguish between what's responsibility and what's not responsibility because the praise sounds the same.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, Johnny, thank you so much for bringing that to me.
Mm-hmm.
Sounds exactly the same when it was their responsibility or when it wasn't.
Mm-hmm.
Johnny's going to bring you that every single time from now on.
Right.
Johnny's going to be a good little boy.
Uh-huh.
Okay, well, it's not Johnny's responsibility to do that.
Yeah.
It's okay occasionally, but you should not sit there and play step and fetch it with Johnny. Johnny will play step and fetch it for the rest of his life if you do that to him. So
So who is this book directed to?
I
Who are
really
your
am
readers?
writing it to anyone. I'm really writing it to everyone. And I'm saying that with the level of chronic illness that we have now, and I lump alcoholism, I lump substance abuse, I lump domestic abuse, mental illness, affluenza,
Mm-hmm.
where I got to keep up with the Joneses next door.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm pretty much saying everybody, all right, quit with all this stuff you're putting on your kids. Let these kids be kids. You're not their best friend. You're their parent. Take on your own responsibilities or find other people to take on those responsibilities.
Mm-hmm.
And then these people can go ahead and have normal to the best of our abilities, but they shouldn't. It was so funny when I was writing that book. It was, as I was reading it, I thought, there's going to be so many young people that read this book and think, I do that every day.
Yeah, but then what I'm getting is that you're going to help them wake up to how.
Yes. I started, I saw a man or read about a man who his thing is he every month gets 150 school bags, knapsacks, book sacks, and puts all kinds of stuff in them, like um,
Mhm.
snacks, bus cards, just all kinds of stuff to just because there's that many homeless teenagers And, and I know because I used to do work with Covenant House in his town, and he just goes and lays those up underneath the overpasses. He knows he's not going to get them to come inside, but he can at
Mm-hmm.
least help them where they are. They're going to school.
Mm-hmm.
These kids are going to school. The
Mm-hmm.
kids there make fun of them because they stink. So he put soap in there, some wipes, deodorant, things like that. He used to be a teacher. That's ridiculous. I would have been homeless if my dad hadn't paid for that house for us to live in. I can promise you, because my mother couldn't work so much at the time.
Mm-hmm.
These kids are leaving these situations because there's too much responsibility. These adults need to wake up and say, what am I doing? Now, is it chronic illness? Is it substance abuse? Is it alcoholism? What is it? I don't know. We need to get to the root of that, though, and recognize that we need, and I'm hoping that through the perpetual caregiver, the thing that I'm building to be able to take some of those responsibilities off, at least of the people who know they need just that much help, or maybe this much help, or maybe one day they need this much help.
Well,
And
I
it's
love your
there for
stories about how people are coming to, and I'm not going to call it rescue, but in a way, it's support services for those who are in need. And you seem to have a real line into where those needs
little
are
pockets
and
are.
why,
Yep.
and
Yep.
that's what your book is about, is why those needs are.
Even
Um,
there.
so, because we're coming to the end, I just
Sure, sure,
want to
sure.
make sure that we're talking about the perpetual.
Caregiver collective.
Yes.
Yes. Yes. So that is really, it's a, that's why I call it a collective. We're not a company. It is a group of people over the years that I've collected. We're kind of all over the place. I'm getting it more organized and under an umbrella through some funding that we're in first round funding requests with some investors, and I want to expand it by making it more formalized with a subscription service to I'll call it a hotline, but it won't really be a hotline, but a subscription service. Everything from when my dad was still alive in 2019, he passed away, he was 91, but he still loved to play on the computer. But guess what? Computers get glitches. 91-year-old, 89-year-old, 87-year-old, 85-year-olds didn't know how to fix it. So he'd call me wherever I was. And I'd spend 2 hours. A lot of times I was driving because that was the kind of job I had. I had 14 states and a territory. So I'd have 2 hours to sit on the phone with him and say, well, okay, what light's blinking now? Okay, what's that doing? Okay, tell me that. Double click that. Nope, double click it. No, 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 not tripped up. Dad, stop. Dad. So, but I got him HP Friend, and he could click on that icon and they'd come on the computer and say, what's wrong with the computer? And he'd say, I don't know. And they'd buzz around on there and fix it.
Yes.
$10 a month. So
Mhm.
things like that. I want that to be like the base subscription. $17 a month, tech support for grandma, whoever. Okay. Where that's what they can do. I'll get HP Friend or whoever to be, and then put my moniker
Right.
over it.
Right.
All the way up to, I mean, I've got 7 securities licenses and three insurance licenses, where people like me who have over my career gone in and said, hey, you were in the hospital for 4 months. I know there have got to be some bills around here. I told you to just hold on to them. I've got all your explanation of benefits because I might would have been their insurance agent. And I match those up, staple them. Ones that don't reconcile, take them to the side. And I say, okay, I'm going to go figure out what's wrong with these. You take these and I'll see you in a month.
Uh-huh.
So they can pay someone to do that. Or maybe I need to get on the phone with somebody or someone like me
Uh-huh.
and wait for the 2 hours for the 19 times you're going to get, switch to another line. And then
Yes.
finally, when you get to the right person, because you know that because I have the vernacular, I know what all those acronyms mean. I also know what to say to them to get to the right person. And then I get to the right person, and then I go, hang on a minute, I have to get because of HIPAA law, right? I got to have to get the patient on the phone. Hang on. And then I buzz that person and say, okay, I've spent 2 hours on there. They're finally on the phone.
Well, you're a master coordinator. It feels like you
I've
are
always done that.
network. it's like you're in the middle of this grand network called life and what's possible or what's available for folks. You're also networked into the need that's there, and
Yeah.
you're able, it's the image I have is that old, when you plug
Switchboard
into a
operator?
switchboard. Yes,
Yes.
that's
Yes.
exactly
I'm gonna laugh. My first job in an office, you remember those old big phones? I was 17. Old, big, huge. And they get you didn't have a thing, but you had
right.
to hold
Yes.
back, hold back, hold back.
Yes.
I had an 8-line phone
Yeah.
with a hold
Yeah.
button. Charbonnet and Charbonnet, could you hold please? Charbonnet and Charbonnet, could you hold
Yes.
please? Charbonnet and Charbonnet.
Yes.
Thank you for holding. Can I help you? Thank you for holding. Can I help you? I swear that was my first job.
Well, that's what's coming through.
Yep. Yep. Oh my
But
God. I swear.
Shelley, we have to stop now. So I
Okay.
want to appreciate you for. I'm glad I got a window into, and that the listeners are now aware of the service of
Yeah.
you just being
Well,
you.
and I want it to grow. It's gonna grow. That's my hope. So
Yeah, well, this is part of helping you grow this vision that you have, but the vision is based on your own life that you've brought to
take. Yeah.
it's kind of where we started today, taking something that was difficult and making something powerful out of it. And
That's what I want
so
to do.
I would say it is, like we said in the beginning, this is your superpower. Thank you.
You're
Thank
very
you.
welcome. Thank you so much.
Thank you for being with us today for this episode of Find Your Voice, Change Your Life. Each person during interviews shares what has helped them find their voice. You can learn from these guests and find your voice so you can be confident to speak up and speak out. And remember to download Doreen's free 7-step guide to fearless speaking at doreen7steps.com. We hope you enjoyed the show and will return next time. Until then, goodbye for now.